Welcome back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a midweek break from the gaming and try to cover all the stuff that helps make it run in a slightly less cussy manner from basically anything else we do. But this week, OpenShot 2.1 is finally released. And you know what? To everyone's surprise, it's borderline usable, and Google has decided to kill Chromebooks. Well, at least the overpriced one that nobody bought.
Do you use Spotify on Linux? Yeah, me neither. But apparently enough people do to justify a web client. And OBS gets a web page plugin. Now you too can have your YOLO swag eye candy on stream.
Linux is 25 years old, but how long until world domination? And you can run Debian from your phone now, but now it's fully open source.
It is open source, but it's also running two systems. We're going to get more into that later. I'm Vin Stone here on the East Coast in North America, but joining us all the way from the West Coast of Portugal.
West Coast, yes. The very southwestern tip. Well, not exactly, but close enough. I am Pedro Mateos.
And the West Coast of North America.
Of California and LA, and I'm Mathieu Commandant.
Okay, gentlemen, let's just get right into this because we talked about Linux's birthday last week, but apparently this is the year of the Linux desktop. No sarcasm.
Apparently, no. Actually, it won't be, but we'll get to that in just a second. Yeah, Linux took over the web. Now it's taking over the world, according to Wired. Don't worry, there'll be links in the show notes as a tradition. And yeah, so the article goes into...
Okay, Wired. Hang on, I'll let you finish, but that is the most creepiest picture of Herr Tolvos.
They had to find one where he looked like a toked up pot user, maybe.
Okay.
I think this cover is a few years old already.
Yeah. But yeah, so they describe in some broad strokes how Linux got started and how it stemmed from the fact that Unix was proprietary and owned by AT&T, and then Richard Stallman and the early free software movement decided to just do something to get away from Unix. But they didn't have a kernel, so when Linux popped up, they started using that, and that idea caught on because the customizability of the operating system allowed people with, say, web servers and the whatnots to tweak an operating system to run on their servers and with some degree of reliability, better than the alternatives anyway, actually present and have a box presenting something to the web, like your typical websites. And nowadays, according to W3 Techs, the share for hosting was 67% Linux, and the other 33% was something else. But yeah, even Microsoft themselves, as we have reported countlessly on this very show, have started to somewhat embrace Linux. I mean, Microsoft hasn't really dropped some of the suits that they have against Linux, but they're actively using it.
You gotta think about Microsoft. Microsoft is, they're changing, and I think they're, correct me if I'm right about this, what do you think about this, Strider? They went from, we don't have a problem with Linux, sue it. From that mentality to now, I think there's like, how do we make money off this?
Well, they know that people are going to use Linux for their hosting and everything else to develop like web apps and stuff. So they have started like embracing Linux and pretty much everything. They have delivered .NET. They're hosting Linux on Azure, a bunch of stuff, which is not bad actually. But yeah, I mean, Linux has been like the major operating system on pretty much everything.
Anything other than the desktop. Yeah,
everything that the desktop. If you don't count like Android as a desktop. But also Microsoft, not because they have been working with Linux technologies, but with the mess they have been doing with their Windows 10 forced upgrades. And I mean, people are getting tired of Windows nowadays. This has been giving a great chance for Linux to get bigger on the desktop side of things. And I don't think that Linux developers have really grabbed that chance.
It's not a matter of developers so much as it is a matter of money, because I don't see anyone paying OEMs and ODMs any type of benefits for pre-installing Linux on their laptops, x86, tablets, desktops, what have you. Microsoft still pays OEMs and ODMs a sizable amount for them to do that.
It's kind of the other way around. Microsoft doesn't pay them. They pay Microsoft. And usually the way the license works out is it's kind of a covered thing. They don't pay for the systems they ship just with Microsoft on them. They pay Microsoft a taste, a cut for everything they ship, regardless. I think that was a lot of hesitation, too. It was like, whoa, why don't you just release something with FreeDOS on it? And they're like, well, we got to pay Microsoft anyway, so here's a copy of Microsoft. That's how it works, Pedro.
Really?
Yeah.
Because then what's the freaking point? Because if that is how it works, what the hell are OEMs and ODMs doing? Because the desktop dominance, if it was to be a meritocracy...
I'll tell you what they're doing, man. All right, we need to do this. We need to take like a Fry's Electronics or the Best Buys, if there's still one around, because they remind me of Blockbusters, and just replace all the available lappies with Linux and just record that with a laugh track behind it. Then you're going to find out why they do that, because they will not be.
Yeah, the OEMs, they know that people will want Windows when they buy a laptop. I mean, either they want Windows or they want OS X if they buy an Apple computer. And they would want Linux if it did have more like the software they used to. And it's getting a lot better nowadays. But still, there is work to be done. I mean, we need to have like better quality software and like better desktops overall. And I mean, Canonical was going in the right direction a few years ago, but now, I mean, they're losing focus with their whole conversions thing. So,
what are you talking about, man? I just pre-ordered the Ubuntu toaster. It's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, no one is really. I mean, it's one nifty thing, but it's not stuff that people need. I mean, people need stuff on their computer to work, and they need quality software. And now, I mean, Canonical is still working on a good desktop. GNOME and KDE are also shipping good desktops, but we need more overall quality across applications, and we need like stuff like Adobe, stuff like, I don't know, all the stuff people use basically.
From the moment Adobe were the ones who created Flash, I'm not entirely sure that's a good idea. But just to point out one last thing about this specific article, someone needs to spell check that particular article. Just saying.
Okay, now that you've got that out of the system, this comes from the Hacker News, because they want to talk about an open source 25-core processor chip that can be scaled up to 200,000 core computer. The researchers, where did this come from? Was it Princeton or MIT? I think it was...
Princeton.
Okay, it was definitely from the Princeton. It's based on OpenSpark, because Pedro was like, well, what about multi-threading? And I was like, if it's based on OpenSpark, it's going to have cool threads. Think CMT, it's going to be built in. The processor itself is built on a 32-nanometer and unfortunately, it's only 1 gigahertz if you're looking at it on the video business. I mean, it looks a bit tricky, but if we're going to give it a rundown, it consists of 25 modified OpenSpark T1 cores. It does have directory-based shared memory, 3 on-chip networks, multi-chip shared memory support, an IBM 32-nanometer SOI process, kind of sweet, and 460 million transistors. The one thing I want to bring up about this, though, because I want to get this quote right, and let me know what you think, as researchers aim to design a chip that could be specifically used for massive computing systems in a large data center that handle cloud services, email services, search, and social networking request. And at the guys at the, well, they were just recently sold, but, you know, the lot at Acorn Risk Machines, better known as ARM, they all say, good luck with that. We've been doing that forever. But, I'm not joking around when I said that, because even Fujitsu dropped the Spark architecture for the 64-bit ARM V8A for their upcoming post-K supercomputer. And my first thought, I was like, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. ARM is making a way into enterprise into stuff like this just for your rack gear. What is the TDP on this critter? Because I know if we're talking about like an Ultra Spark, you're looking at about like 60 watts, man. So that's the thing. I do want to say this is a fantastic project. I love this kind of stuff. But unfortunately, in just my opinion, this is a lab prototype that probably will never see any real-world implementation.
Yeah, because it's neat. I will give him that. It's really, really neat. But you mentioned the TDP, and on a 32-nanometer process that's going to be, to get any kind of performance out of it, you're going to need at least 50 watts. While on a comparable ARM board, you would need 5. So, yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. So this really focuses on really massively parallel computing. So, fun fact, I don't know, what do you call this? It's Python? So if you want to get the full power out of this chip, you'd better not use Python, the programming language. You'd better use Go.
Naturally you wouldn't use Python. Who would use Python? That's just a silly
I would.
Babby's first language, man.
Parallel computing. Ask AMD how's that worked out for him for the past 10 years.
Hey, maybe we could build a Beowulf. Wait, no, I wouldn't. Anyway, guys, keep up the good work. That is a very, very neat project. But should everyone panic, or should like 6 people who use this panic?
There's not a lot of people who use Opera already, and there might be even less from now on. There has been a breach on the Opera server, the one they use to synchronize the passwords across like browsers. So it's pretty serious breach because you don't want your passwords running in the wild. So they have they do not store the passwords in plain text. Obviously, it's all encrypted. It's hashed and salts, but still they do keep so in some way or another password. So there's been this security breach. Not really a good thing. They're working on fixing the issue. Apparently there hasn't been a lot leaked, so they still recommend users to change their passwords, the master password for Opera, and also the passwords for their third-party websites. Still pretty much a big mess up on the side of Opera.
It is. It's a looting thing, and I kind of feel bad because they do say they have 1.3 million people using this service. And when I first read this, my first response was like, "Oh, they have that? Okay, neat. I didn't know they did." But it's just almost like rain on your wedding day, because I guess I would say roughly 10% of those 1.3 million people that were saved with the operas were like, because I don't trust Google and they're spying on me. And that's
yeah, no, there's a certain degree of irony there, but let's see, what did they say? The total active number of users in Opera Sync in the last month, 1.7 million.
1.7.
Less than 0.5% of the total Opera user base of 350 million people. How are there 350 million people using Opera?
Because 449,999,000 of them are on feature phones using the Opera browser in like third world countries.
That's a major use share for Opera. Opera Mobile. This has still a good market share.
So that's the thing. Don't panic. Maybe you're like
maybe not.
You learned something. And you're like, oh, that they did have that feature. What would you recommend people use, Strider?
I use this feature on Firefox and Chrome but I just hope that it won't go wrong on the. I mean, I hope Mozilla and Google won't mess up this like Opera did.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you want safety, it's Firefox.
Dead pixels, because Google has discontinued the Chromebook Pixel 2, and they're not going to replace it to the surprise of absolutely no one. Well, all right. Unfortunately, there's probably going to be people who didn't know how Google just nopes things out of spite, and they're going to be upset, along with people like me who bought a Nexus 10, and they're like, yeah, screw that thing. We got a new one. You're not getting support for that old one. But 2013, yeah, this is the hyper expensive one, and I guess the most recent one, which was the Pixel C, which is also a tablet, right?
Yeah, it's a tablet with a digital.
And I bought the original Nexus 10, and I was very much excited when they released the Pixel C, and I was like, ooh, the Nexus 10 doesn't really need an upgrade, but I'm going to get this. And this is when Marshmallow was rolling out, and I was like, okay, well, let me see how Marshmallow runs on my Nexus 10. Some people are already laughing. Then I'll buy the, if it doesn't run very well on my Nexus 10, I'll get the Pixel C, even though I wasn't really happy with the aspect ratio on it. And then it's like, yeah, the Nexus 10, no, you're not getting a Marshmallow update. But if you buy this Pixel, I was like, yeah, but if I just install CyanogenMod, F that noise. Pedro, you just froze interesting, but go ahead.
Yeah, no. There was someone calling me, and I had to mute the phone. But yeah, no, Google has been, well, they've been playing hooky with actually killing the Nexus line for a long, long time. So when they say that they're going to kill the Pixel, I don't believe them.
Well, I believe they're going to kill the one with the built-in keyboard. This, this is gone because they've already identified end of life for all of the Chromebooks. I think we're going to get like max 4 years out of it. But you see, Strider, don't you think that makes sense? Because your average Chromebook is like, about $3.50, $3.50, and you're going to get a very decent Chromebook. But these things are like $1,000, man. So
yeah, that's $1,000, and I mean, maybe they understood that high-end laptops and Chrome OS didn't go well together because, I mean, you're not going to buy a high-end laptop and have a browser running. I mean, there's only so much stuff you can do on a browser.
Oh, what about once you get all the Android apps? What would you say now?
Well, it's still Android apps. I mean, it's still very limited. And yeah sure. I mean, the replacement is a Pixel C, which is an ARM device.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
so
why would you
want
want
replacement? Because an Android ARM device can't really replace an x86 Chrome OS laptop.
No,
Yeah,
but
sure,
we'll talk about
but-
later how it can replace your entire computer. So, this app, what does it do? I've never heard about it.
Maru? We covered. Spotify. So-
No, that's you jumped a few, or you got the old notes layout.
It might have been a bad copy pasta. Boom. There it is.
Yeah,
there
Maru
we go.
OS. Yeah, we talked about Maru OS a couple of weeks ago, which is a neat little thing that will allow you to run Android on your phone, and when you plug it in with your HDMI cable, then you can use a full-on Debian desktop. So basically the same thing as when we talked about it a few weeks ago, except one major difference is now you can get the source code for it on GitHub. So this is what you would expect from a project like this. I mean, you would expect it to be fully open source, which is now open source. So good thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a bit here. The comparison with Ubuntu Phone that Strider made. Well, Ubuntu Phone still has the advantage of being a native OS, which can do both touch and a desktop layout. Now, in this case, you have a single device running two layouts in parallel, which causes, I don't know, a pretty big hit on the system resources, especially on a Nexus 5, because that's the only type of device that can run this at this point.
I don't know. I'm looking at that Nexus 5. You're going to be running what, 2 version outdated version of Android, and well, you know, for me, I mean, this is not really turning your mobile into a PC. No, nay, definitely have to say. I mean, this is, I believe, kudos on them for opening the source, but this is why I think they're opening the source, because, you know, this is absolutely continuing along the train of thought that the entire industry has collectively decided it's a bad idea, and this lot went, yeah, let's do that. And it's like, no, maybe that's not going to work out. Something like this, Strider, what do you think? I mean, if this worked seamlessly, you just walked in the house and maybe you could like Alt-Tab or switch to your Android desktop or something like that. I don't see the convergence or the need. And
it is not much, it is not the convergence like the Ubuntu phone or like the Microsoft Surface, stuff like this. It's really 2 different systems. So you got Android on one side, Debian on the other. Maybe there's some.
You look at Windows. I mean, they wanted like Windows everywhere. The RT, that never happened. The tablet, it's just a hot mess, and it's just not working, Brad. Nobody's pulled it off. No one's even came close.
Yeah, it still needs a little more time to get there. I mean, we also
Strider just said it worked perfectly.
No, it works perfectly for him, as is, you know, tradition with Strider. But no, doesn't.
I don't have it.
Really. Go on.
No, I mean, I would need to try. I want to get the Nexus 5 just to be able to try this, because I find it really interesting. I'm not saying I would use it a lot, but I mean, I find the idea interesting, and I would like to play with it.
I mean, don't get me right. I'm fascinated with the idea, the implementation. As soon as you start bringing in cord, like, oh no.
Yeah, well, once you can do reliable wireless displays, sure.
which is totally possible in 2016.
You can do it now, but it's still pretty expensive.
Oh, right. That's never been a thing since the beginning of Since Forever, right?
Look, expensive is still, you know, keeping VR down because no one wants to pay.
Well, what are you saying? There's like some type of price performance Venn diagram that we all need to take a look at. Thanks everyone on G Plus for sharing plus listening on that Venn diagram. Never heard that one before. Still love everyone. I also love the Patreons that are helping us out, man.
Yes.
Beautiful people helping Linux Gamecast and Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays create podcasts for who game on Linux and do other stuff good too, like other stuff on Linux good too. We're currently want to thank 89 Patreons kicking in 159 wet stinky caches for each show. And well, it's kind of split in 2 now since we're doing 2 shows, but that's even better. Yeah, definitely thanks to all the Patreons. And hey, you know, not a Patreon? If you know a Patreon, thank the Patreons, because those are the ones keeping us on the air, doing this live, the pre-records, ad-free, and honest as we get. It's a kind of brilliant thing. But head over to patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. You ever been thinking about it? Throw some nickels into our face organs. We would appreciate it. If not, hey man, that's cool. Maybe share the show though, huh? Thumbs up.
And if you do decide to kick us some shekels, you get some content.
Oh, no. We wouldn't give something back of value, Pedro. What are you talking about?
Oh.
No.
I mean, it's not like we have certain long-running series such as
It's totally almost 90 videos, yes.
Yeah. Portal 2. Apparently, I think you're doing a tutorial how-to type thing this week.
Oh, man. Yeah, all right, fine. You busted me. Yeah, I'm totally going to release a how-to on setting up a virtual camera on your Linux desktop in like under 5 minutes that you can use with OBS or with Google Hangouts. And why? Because I searched for it. It didn't exist. So now it will be a thing on the Googles for people to search and use. Brilliant. Can we stop doing this and go back to the news now?
Yes. Speaking of the things Ven uses.
Oh no! It's the OpenShot 2.1 is out, and can you hear that squeeing sound? That's Strider vibrating because it has wave support. Before I even get into, all right, OpenShot nonlinear video editor. That's basically what we're going to cover. But as someone who's been using OpenShot 1.4 for roughly 4 years to produce thousands of videos, long videos too, when I heard Strider just ZOMG wave, what?
The visual waveforms.
Well, why is this a thing? I've never understood why people need this.
Because you get a visual representation of the audio. Because you have these little thumbnails for the video, but you don't get anything for audio. So this can be confusing. So if you need to sync up some audio and video, it's nice to have the audio waveform. And that was something KD and Live did better because it did have that.
Oh, so you're saying that's why everyone's just screaming about why it's so difficult to mix audio video, because they've been doing it the way you described, which is wrong?
Maybe, I don't know. I just like having the audio waveforms. This is something
that's all you had to say, man.
Really, really good.
But this is out. It's got a couple of new things. Oh, look, there's the audio waveform. Property editing. Okay, yeah, the property thing, that's just a hot mess. I hope they get rid of that. Keyboard mappings, that's a good thing. Windows 64-bit support. Ooh, everyone give that a hand. And timeline improvements. I don't know. Basically, here's what you need to take away from it. If you're currently using the version of OpenShot that I like, the version I like to call the one that works, 1.4, it can no longer import those save files, so it has that going for it. I don't know if we really want to call that a feature, but it is borderline usable. It has roughly 80% of the functionality of the 4-year-old version now. You can almost use it to do something, Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never really use it on my end. Thankfully, Ven does most of the editing. When LWDW.
Oh, no. That was just a brilliant time where Pedro was he had his own YouTube channel, and he was going to.
I tried it, but admittedly, I only
week.
had the calculator at the time, and I failed miserably. I have no shame admitting that whatsoever. But yeah, no, it's good to see that it's still being developed, but there was that Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign that they did. And it's being drip fed. All the updates are being drip fed over a long time. And
yeah, well, you said David, but it's mostly he did because it's basically one guy working on the project.
Mm-hmm.
So, so could we expect OpenShot 2.2 being used for the production of the show, maybe?
I do believe we'll see final production with the 2.0 series probably mid-2023. It'll definitely be ready. But
are you still using 1404, Ven?
Really? Am I using a tested stable LTS for a production box? Is that what you just asked me?
Yes.
What do you think?
Probably.
Hang on, I'll be right back. I'll install Arch in the middle of the show. Let's see what develops. Coming up next, System 76. Hey, man, they got some news. They got some people. Somebody showed up and said...
Yeah, they have a new community manager. And I say, I can already hear you saying, why should I care? Well, the new community manager is Ryan Sipes. So this sounded familiar, and I looked into my wallet and I found his business card when he was the former CTO of Mycroft, the open source voice assistant AI. So, which is quite a neat project. So now basically he's moved from Mycroft to System 76.
What is System 76? I've never heard of them.
They sell laptops with Linux. They're
the
one
Linux
of the
shop.
biggest.
You go down to the Linux shop to pick up a Linux PC. That's System 76.
Yes, that's basically the best Linux laptops you can get. Most of them are.
I want everyone to send their hate mail to Strider at.
Yes. Every one of you that has had a problem with System 76 and their Clevo-ness and the...
no. I'm not even get into all that. I'm just getting into, there's somebody who bought a laptop from something. There's the homebrew roll you're on that are just like, you like something I don't.
Maybe you can get better Linux laptops if you get the Dell XPS 13-bit.
Listen, man, when you order from pre-installed. It doesn't matter what it is. You're paying for support. That's the premium that is built in. I mean, this is, I hate to say it. I mean, if you're ordering something like this, you're just to the point where you're like, forget it. I just want something out of the box that works. And if something breaks, I don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Or you're like, I want to learn how to do the Linux and I don't know how. But we're not talking about System 76 and what they make. We're talking about who they hired and why it's a good thing.
Yeah. And so Rand wrote this blog post, and he said that System 76 had some game-changing stuff down the road. So we can maybe expect some stuff to happen soon. Or not,
because they also said that their Bonobo Extreme top-of-the-line laptop with the NVIDIA GPU, that it was going to be a game changer, and it's not it's not their best-selling device by any measure.
Well, maybe the latest updates to the software will include Windows 10.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't really expect this to be a thing with Windows 10, but I don't know in what terms Ryan Sipes left Mycroft, but I think that would be cool if System 76 and Mycroft did something together, because they only.
I mean, long as he didn't pull like a Carmack and walk out with 2 thumb drives full of proprietary data.
Yeah, but currently Mycroft, they only give you plans to make your own 3D printed cases. So I think there's something for System 76 to do with Mycroft here, and I would like to be the case that they did some real devices with Mycrofts. That would be really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like racing stripes. You call me System 76.
An actual sort of AI that worked or had the functionality along the lines of OK Google.
Well,
Siri,
no, it's
Cortana?
Brilliant listening to Cortana, because the Cortana works because you feel sorry for it when it tries to do anything. And you're like, oh.
I mean, I hate to say this, but right now Cortana has more functionality than Mycroft does. That's bad. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's open source, so you have to give it a free pass. That's just how the community works. Why is this in the show notes?
Text editor, master race, Strider. Right.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this even if I won't ever use it, because I mean, I'm stuck with Vim. I don't want to use anything else.
Where's Control Butterfly? That's useless.
Yeah, and this is Micro. So Micro is somewhere between Vim and Nano. So it's easy to use like Nano. You get those those common shortcuts like Control-C, Control-V. It's also text-based, so you can use it on SSH console, whatever. But it also has those nice features you get from Vim or Emacs, such as like splits, tabs, syntax alighting. You can get linting for your languages. So it's much more like complete than if you just used Nano. So really good thing.
So this is just like an escalation in prank warfare. Instead of symlinking to Vim to Nano, you're going to link it to this from now on, right? And just genuinely confuse the hell out of your friends.
This seems to be a proper editor. Whereas, I mean, I've used Nano in the past. I mean, Nano is all right if you just want to do a quick edit of a small file, but
that's what Nano is. Nano doesn't pretend to be anything. This is making promises, son.
So. This is trying to step into the realms of, like Strider already said, into the realms of VI and Emacs. But what it is just Nano with a more intuitive customization scheme, as it were, because it actually lets you customize like key bindings and a load of other stuff. You can actually set like syntax highlighting. You can change the color scheme in between the different syntaxes just to suit your fancy, as it were. And Strider put there in the notes that if adults were ever going to have a good old-fashioned editor war and some kid comes screaming Nano, well, in that case, if said adults were warring over VI and Emacs, I'd gladly take the kids' side and just use Nano.
Yeah, I mean, you can't use Nano. There's nothing wrong with Nano. It's just that you can't take part in the editor wars. Like
Yeah,
the
no, I
flaming
don't
wars
really.
and stuff.
No, you're definitely not going to get in that. I mean, unless you pay for the Nano DLC. Tell me about this again, which is totally not a mistake from the beginning of the show, and it's finally in the correct order. So we can
Totally.
talk
Yeah,
about it.
no.
Didn't happen.
I mean, the magic of post-production. Yes, this is Spotify. Some people actually use Spotify. I know a couple who swear by Spotify and say that it's like iTunes, but without having to deal with Apple. And I can sort of respect that. But it also allows you to use, even if you just have a free account, you can still listen to music just with ads played every now and again. And apparently there are enough people using it under Linux to justify a dedicated client. How? I do not know, but there was a quote-unquote dedicated client for
Well, there
Spotify.
was. It's just not
Linux.
getting a lot of updates. I mean, there's already the Spotify web player for Linux, and they say, hey, Spotty Web, it doesn't provide a system tray icon, playback controls, and a closed tray icon or other features that are in the one that already exists. That's not the official client, but this is like the kneecap version of the already third-party version of, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm taking too long. Okay, Google, play me some Strider.
Yeah, I mean, Spotify. I mean, that's one way to rip off artists. I buy my stuff from Bandcamp personally and download the rest. But still, if you use Spotify, you could have used this awesome player called Nuvola, and you don't get just
I just
Spotify
gotta
with
stop you for a
Nuvola.
second. Spotify doesn't rip off artists.
I mean, yeah, it
Labels
does.
rip off artists.
Also yes, but
So it's
Spotify,
technically just ripping off the labels.
And, you know, if an artist puts it up there themselves, the artist is ripping off the artist. One thing I was
Sure.
interested in, Pedro, you were saying, oh, it didn't give me a tray icon. I mean, it doesn't claim to, but it didn't work with your multimedia keys on your keyboard. And that's when I was like, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you can tell how long someone's been using Linux.
Actually, I only got a keyboard with the multimedia keys after I started using Linux. You know, the play, pause, what have yous buttons.
And yeah, this will actually make sense when I finish the sentence, Pedro, but you're welcome to interject again if you feel like it. Here we go. It doesn't matter. I have multimedia keys on my keyboard. Never crossed my mind to touch them, that they would work. And I've had multimedia keys on my keyboard for well over a decade and different versions. It's these new kids like Pedro that come expecting this stuff to work. Back in my day, these keys didn't even exist, much less work on Linux when they started showing up. And that was my point, Pedro. Not that your new shiny yellow swag keyboard has keys on it.
Yes,
and
it
they've been
has
working pretty
dedicated
fine.
multimedia keys, and
past
Oh
Say
no,
if
I was
use the
terrified,
laptop.
petrified, stupefied, and or mortified when I accidentally pushed the volume button on. I think I was
And it
cleaning
works?
it, and a menu thing. Ugh. Just walked out of the room slowly
Yeah.
backwards, and I was like, "This isn't right. What's going on here, man?"
Yeah, it's this actually all started because of laptops, because laptops have the built-in multimedia keys, and yeah, ACPI actually works pretty well nowadays. If you use something like a dedicated music player to listen to your podcasts, or just a random playlist that you happen to have laying around, yeah, I am used to just hitting the play and pause and the stop buttons on my keyboard, and they work with Rhythm Box, they work with Banshee, they work with everything out of the box. I didn't need to do anything. So yeah, when you are releasing a Spotify client which doesn't have basic functionality, which I expect,
Isn't Spotify a streaming service?
it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I've never been one to hey, it's a streaming service. Let's pause it. That defeats the point.
You stop it.
Yeah, you can use Nuvola, which has support for multimedia keys and will give you a Spotify clients.
Okay. Brilliant.
All right.
So we got one last little bit of newsy, itemy stuff, don't we?
Yes, and apparently we have to thank Mr. Dick T for sharing this. Our good old friend from G+. He likes to keep up with the OBS stuff. And he
You heard that,
brought
Dick?
up...
He called you old, not me, man.
It's a good old friend. But what have yous. It's the OBS Qt WebKit. And what this does is basically a plugin, which after you compile it and you install it, you can tell OBS to load a specific web page or an HTML file that you happen to have locally. Say it allows you to do something a little more complex than you would with just the screen region grab or the window grab. You can actually set the overlays, like say you have a web page with some overlay stuff that you want to display that updates itself regularly, and it allows you to do all the fancy eye candy stuff. You can do that and say have a transparent background. So if you overlay it while you're streaming, it doesn't really obscure anything, and that's cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Strider, you are going to go ahead and say the first thing I asked when I looked at this and went to the README.
Thanks for clearing that up, because I've read the README like from start to finish, and I had no idea what it did.
I didn't either when Dick posted it. That was my first question on his post. I was like, what?
Yeah. So at first I read like the name, and I thought that it was yet another project that used the name OBS that was totally unrelated to OBS streaming software or OBS, the OpenShot built service. So I mean,
yeah, that's definitely a thing. And to paraphrase what Dick wrote back, he's like, I'll let you put a bunch of shite on the screen. And I was like, okay, got it. And Pedro, I think, rounded that out just a little bit better. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, before we screech out of here, some people wrote us some love letters, some
yes, they did.
Questions about relationship. Wait, no, that's a different show.
Different show. We'll get to that on Saturday. But yeah, we had some feedback this week, and if you'd like to get in touch with us, linuxgamecast.com, contact button, fill the form, it's easy enough. Or just, if you find this video, post it somewhere on the YouTubes, on Patreon, on Google+, Twitter, Facebook, just track down the original post, leave us a comment there. We could probably see it. And if it's something, relevant, we will put it up on the show, and we'll talk about it. But this week, you may remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Purism, the guys that make the Librem laptops. And the week after that, we had a bit of feedback saying that, those Purism guys, they're liars. So I sent them an email, and I explained the situation, and I asked if they would provide me or Ben or Jordan with a review unit to, so we could actually check for ourselves. And this is the email I got back. Hi, Pedro. Sorry for the delay, and thanks for offering to review our Librem line of laptops. We would like to be able to provide you with a review unit free of charge, but as our review units are already all out there in the field, quote unquote, and since we have a very tight stock inventory...
if we're paraphrasing this, they basically said, we've given out all the review units. It's like, all right, my first question, so we need everyone in chat and everyone listening to come together. We need to write a response to this, because I was like, did you give them away as review units, or do you expect them back, and how do I get on that actual list? But yes, instead of doing that, what did they offer to do for you, Pedro? A special one-time deal.
That was the big kicker in this one. What we can do, however, is to offer you one with a fairly liberal return policy. That fairly liberal just kills me. And what they propose is I buy the laptop. It's the 15-inch HD 1920 by 1080 Librem 15 that they have, which costs the base model was $1,300, and I could use it for 45 days and return it, and they would give me back my money. Now, not to mention that it is completely unorthodox way of doing reviews of hardware. It's also a huge liability, huge. Let's assume I would buy it and it would have gotten lost or damaged during transit. I would have been effed. You would have taken my money, and I would not have had the hardware to review.
Well, if you'd ordered it on a credit card, you could just do a chargeback. And
I don't want to do that, because that actually
Well, unfortunately, you can't complain about stuff you just don't feel like doing, Pedro, okay?
It's because chargebacks are not as easy a thing here in Portugal as they are in, say, the US. Chargebacks here are a legal issue.
Okay, tell them to send it cash on delivery and see what they say.
But boy, wait, you would get 5%, a 5% rebate. Doesn't that make
they sweeten the deal? Even if you did that, even if they sanctioned to do that, you don't want to do that because people who do that to review hardware are dicks. Just say it, man.
They want my money so they can invest it in something, and even if they have to pay it back to me, chances are they already have a little bit of profit off of it.
Oh, yeah. What laptop? It never showed back up. What are you talking about? Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not accusing me of anything. This is not allegedly. That is genuinely what they wrote back to Pedro. So, no, maybe not. Just make of that what you will. But the guys from Omega wrote me, and, well, they wrote all of us. They just did it in a very lucky way for them because they posted it on, like, the private messages on YouTube, which I never check. A lot of people have contacted us, apparently, and I decided to check that the other day, and I was like, wow, missed a couple opportunities there, didn't we? But they said, hey, this is from Broken. He's like, I'm just reaching out to you guys to see if you would be interested in creating a video about our product, the Omega 2, a $5 Linux development board with built-in Wi-Fi. We're currently on a Kickstarter, and they've raised over 200,000. They nailed their Kickstarter because their Kickstarter was like for $1.50 or something like that. If they're interested, they got all the information. I'll give you, this is what they're talking about. The world's smallest Linux server with Wi-Fi built in for the Internet of Things. I mean, it's almost as small as a cherry, but I would really dare anyone to stick that in their mouth and flip the chip with their tongue.
Admittedly, I'm kind of curious. Someone make a video of that.
I don't know. Looks like an interesting bit of kit. What do you say? You think we should get some to play with? And my first thought is like, okay, do you ship to Tanzania?
Yeah, that was my first thought too. I mean, Linux Nuru, he does a lot of work with SOCs and Linux and what have yous. I don't really have the hardware necessary to basically tinker with that at this point.
Oh, I totes have the hardware to tinker with this. My problem is for the same reason I stay away from things like this. Is like, I don't know, man. I mean, they did great. They nailed that. I think at the very least, Strider, we should probably get somebody in from the company just to give us a better rundown of what it does. Do you think that'd be okay?
Yeah, I mean, it did.
Do you think you could not cuss them out for once? We'd just like to have one guest on that you just don't berate relentlessly.
Yeah. But for $5, I mean, I might get one. I mean, I probably would have to buy a bunch of other stuff to go with it, but I
don't know. Unfortunately, I have way too much of that stuff. And maybe we might, just out of our own pocket, pick up a couple and just, have a couple of giveaways or something. It looks like a neat thing, but we definitely will see what we can do to get those critters on the show and have a proper chat with them. But I think that is going to wrap us up right at the 49-minute mark. It is brilliant. I've been Vince Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos.
And I am Macho Commando.
And we will see you next week. Hopefully, we weren't that late. We were like 20 minutes late, but right at 3. Pedro and I will return Saturday.
Yes.
Take a look for the Linux Gamecast if you were into that thing. See you.
Bye.
Bye.